Chairman D'Esposito for putting this important hearing together during National Police Week, and especially to my fellow Long Islander, Chairman D'Esposito, who's a former NYPD detective and chief of the Island Park Fire Department. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your dedicated service to our community, but selfishly for bringing your experience to our committee today. I also want to thank our witnesses for being here. Chief, Sheriff, Commissioner, thank you especially for your service to your communities and to our country. You keep our children, our families, our community safe every day, and this committee appreciates that. I have the privilege of representing New York's 1st Congressional District. We're the east end of Long Island, Suffolk County, and the Suffolk County Police Department is home to 2,700 sworn police officers, 600 civilian members, and 400 school crossing guards. We also have the Riverhead, Southold, Shelter Island, East Hampton, and Southampton police departments in my district as well. And they, like you, serve every day to protect their communities, and we appreciate them as well. As this is National Police Week, I want to discuss the ways the federal government can be helpful to local law enforcement. As my colleague from Rhode Island said, we want to be solutions-oriented. So, Chief, Sheriff, and Commissioner, my first question is for you, gentlemen. In my home state of New York, we have unfortunately seen some of our elected leaders choosing to support criminals more than our law enforcement officers. In particular, cashless bail has been a disaster from the very beginning. My question is, what would morale look like for your departments, for your officers, for your deputies, if they knew a criminal they had just taken in would be released nearly hours later with no incentives to show back to court? Sheriff, you want to give it a shot first?
That's exactly the environment we are operating in California. I'm fortunate. My roster is almost full. I'm on the other end. I have a great retention in my organization, and we are attracting people. It's not because we're the highest paid. I think we have a highly supportive community, and that's probably the first most paramount thing, is having great community support. The media rhetoric is not accurate. The vast majority of Americans do support policing, so I'd start with that. I think one of the biggest issues, probably beyond what this board can do, is get us out of social work. That solves probably one of the biggest issues. If we didn't have to deal with the mental illness, the substance use that we proliferate. Right now, 1,000 people in my jail are on medication-assisted treatment. I have half of my people entrusted in my care have a daily nexus to mental health treatment. I run the largest detox facility in our county, the Orange County Jail. So those are probably the real issues that I think are the most challenging. Violent crime, of course, criminals have to be there, but when you look at resources and how taxed we are, getting us out of social work and let us do the job we got in to do in policing would probably be the biggest morale boost for our team.
Thanks, Sheriff. Commissioner, Chief, do you guys want to add something?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I think in my neck of the woods, which is West Texas, so there's, we measure distance in time, not in miles. So I would have to second what the sheriff says in reference to mental health. If we encounter someone in crisis, we will absolutely, that officer that is assisting that person in crisis will be tied up their entire shift. So that includes a trip to a medical facility, but then they will have to transport that person in crisis to a mental health facility, which many times is 2.5 hours away. That does nothing for the officer, and it absolutely does nothing for that person in crisis. Could you imagine being in crisis and having to ride in a police car for 2.5 hours before you could get help? So that's an issue for us, and that's an issue that needs to be fixed, and we've been asking for it to be fixed for forever. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Certainly in my area, we have dangerous hearings, which we still do. So, if someone actually were to do a heinous crime, we don't have that trend right now of them being released, but we do have issues around juveniles. And the fact is that they might be involved in, certainly multiple gun arrests or things of that nature where they're not held at all. And not saying that it should be, but the around juvenile crime, that's a different issue that we're facing, and really, that has issues. As far as morale, concerning around the mental health challenges, I think that we all face in every jurisdiction. we'd love to be out of the business of dealing with folks that had mental illness, but the reality is I don't know how we can, because virtually every call we go to, in some way, shape, or form, it seems like it pops up. So if our officers aren't informed in some way, you know, I'm really afraid of what the outcome might be. So we're always going to have the challenge of making sure that they're trained around some of these issues.
Thank you. My time has expired, Mr. Mangual. Apologize. I had another question for you, but maybe we'll get you on a future round. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. LaLota.